Have you ever tried to squeeze into a pair of work pants only to realize they don't fit anymore? And while you knew exactly how it happened, you really don't want to be 100% honest with yourself. Well, that happened to me. And what I discovered wasn't just about my clothes, it was about how I've been using food to cope with my emotions. In this episode, I'm sharing my story of emotional eating, how I've been using food to mask my feelings, and what I've learned along the way. Let's dive in. If I'm being completely honest, food has been my emotional crutch for over a decade. Whether it was celebrating with a slice of chocolate chip cheesecake or comforting myself with an oversized bowl of pasta when life felt overwhelming, food was always there, offering a temporary relief. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that relying on food as a coping mechanism isn't as harmless as it seems. Emotional eating is something many of us struggle with, but I doubt many men would raise their hand to admit it. We've all been there. When life gets stressful, overwhelming, or just too much to bear, food can feel like the easiest escape. The problem is it's a short-term fix. We might feel comforted for a moment, but that comfort fades and we're left facing the underlying issues we tried to mask. The vicious cycle starts. Food becomes our go-to response to every emotion, whether we're sad, anxious, lonely, or stressed. And let's face it, food is everywhere, constantly marketed to us, making it hard to resist. But food isn't going to solve our problems. It's only a temporary bandage. Here's where it gets tricky. When we use food to cope, we're not actually addressing the root of the problem. We're just numbing ourselves, distracting from the emotions we don't want to deal with. Over time, this can spiral into an unhealthy relationship with food. And even worse, our mental health can take a hit. I've been there way too many times. I've eaten an entire pizza when I was feeling anxious, only to feel miserable and bloated after. I've devoured enough Indian food to feed a family when I was stressed about work, only to end up feeling anxious and overwhelmed. And this wasn't just a one-time thing. It happened again and again for years. What's even scarier is how this behavior can evolve into disordered eating habits, or worse, eating disorders. It's a fine line between using food for comfort and developing a toxic relationship with it. I've been down that path too. There's been times where I restricted myself from certain foods because I was being good, convinced myself I shouldn't have them, only to binge on them later because the cravings became unbearable. I've pushed myself to exercise obsessively, not to feel healthier, but to burn off every single calorie, feeling like I wasn't good enough if I didn't. It's exhausting and draining, and I know it doesn't lead to anything good. When I look back over my adult life, emotional eating started for me about 15 years ago. I thought it was just something I did because I loved food. I used it as a way to cope, and I thought that was normal. But as I've gotten older, I've realized it was more than that. It was, in a way, a survival mechanism, a way to numb the discomfort and distract myself from emotions I didn't know how to handle. I used food to fill the empty spaces, to comfort myself when I was feeling alone or lost. But the reality hit me. The food wasn't the problem. The problem was that I didn't know how to deal with my emotions in a healthier way. The latest moment of truth came about 3 months ago when I was getting ready for work one day. I went to my closet to grab a pair of work pants, nothing fancy, just the usual ones I always wore. But as I tried to button them, I realized they were too tight. I grabbed another pair, and then the same thing happened. Then another and another, each pair too tight. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. These were the pants I'd just worn a few weeks ago. How had things gotten to this point? If I were honest with myself, I knew exactly how it happened. Standing there, looking at myself in the mirror, I was overwhelmed with a mix of shame, frustration, and disappointment. I did laugh for a moment as I thought to myself, how am I going to explain not being in the office today? It wasn't all about the pants. It was about what they represented, all the times I had used food to numb my emotions instead of dealing with them. Food had been my comfort, but it had also become my enemy. What hurt the most was how I hadn't noticed the slow changes in my body. I'd stopped listening to my body's real needs and instead fell into the trap of emotional eating. Realizing how far I drifted from the healthy habits I once had was a painful wake-up call. And yes, it stung. I knew I'd gained weight, but I didn't realize it had gotten this bad. But in that moment, something shifted. I knew I had to make a radical change, not just in my eating habits, but in how I was treating myself emotionally. I realized emotional eating wasn't just about the food. It was about understanding my emotions and learning to cope with it in a healthier way. It wasn't about squeezing into those pants. It was about feeling good in my own skin, no matter what size I was. I didn't want to keep using food to escape my feelings. I wanted to face them head on without relying on external comfort. So many of us are facing similar struggles, and we don't have to do it alone. It's okay not to have everything figured out. It's okay to feel the uncomfortable emotions and to ask for help when we need it. I've learned that it's okay to feel sad, angry, anxious, or frustrated. We don't have to suppress those feelings or turn to food to make them go away. How I'm handling emotional eating now? I've had multiple conversations with my therapist to better understand the root causes of this behavior, and particularly identifying the emotions that need to be processed without turning to food for help. I'm not sure if any of you are like me, but I struggle sometimes to identify my emotions, and this is something I continue to work on. If you've never seen The Wheel of Emotions, then I highly suggest you find it. I never knew there were so many emotions one could experience. I've also recommitted to my fitness routine, and my trainer is helping me stay accountable to healthier habits. I find that having structure is helping me stay on track. I will do a separate episode where I do a deeper dive on what my trainer and I are doing together. It's really great stuff. I think the biggest lesson I've learned is that it's not all about perfection. It's about progress. It's okay to stumble. It's okay to make mistakes. The key is to recognize those mistakes without letting them define us. Each time we choose healthier ways to cope with our emotions, we're making progress. It's about being kind to ourselves, especially in those moments of vulnerability. Looking back at the last 3 months, I'm proud of the progress I've made, but I know I'll still face moments when emotional eating feels tempting, and that's okay. What matters is that I've learned to recognize when I'm using food as a crutch and how to step back. I've learned how to find healthier ways to cope, whether it's reaching out to someone I trust, going for a walk, or just allowing myself to feel my emotions without judgment. In fact, this happened last week. I had a back and forth in my mind about ordering takeaway. If I zoomed out of my body, it would have been like watching some sort of negotiation taking place. Fortunately, I didn't give in, and I texted my trainer to let him know what I was thinking. Honestly, once I released it through the text, I didn't feel that need to order takeaway, and I cooked what I had originally planned. If you've made it this far, thank you for letting me share my journey with you. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section. What unhealthy coping mechanisms have you struggled with? And what strategies have helped you overcome them? Remember, you're not alone in this. We're all in this together. It's not about the number on the scale or how we look. It's about taking care of ourselves, mind and body, with kindness and patience. You're worth it.